There's something about gardening that just brings out the best in us. For many, it just makes us want to celebrate. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Join me next as we visit some of my favorite garden festivals. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Who doesn't love a party or a festival? And what better reason to celebrate than all the beauty and bounty that nature provides us? So in today's show, I thought we'd travel to some of my favorite festivals. Our first stop will be in Carmel, California at the very popular Tomato Festival. You won't believe the number of different varieties and how beautifully they're presented. We're talking hundreds of flavors and colors. They're out of this world. And if you want some tips on growing these summer favorites, we'll learn how one tomato enthusiast produces some of the best. And since we're celebrating tomatoes, I thought I'd share with you a delicious savory recipe called tomato and avocado salsa. It's great for parties, and I guarantee you it'll have guests coming back for more. On our next stop, we'll visit a place where the appreciation for the beautiful chrysanthemum is in full bloom. We'll stop by the famous Barberton, Ohio Mum Fest, where they've planted over 18,000 mums, creating over 1 million spectacular blooms. Plus, I'll share some tips on buying mums that'll help you have flourishing results in your garden. Now let's head out to the Tomato Festival in Carmel, California, where the choices are endless. That's next, so don't go away. Americans are well known for their festivals. We have festivals for just about anything, including food. And here on the Central Coast in California, there are many reasons to celebrate because of all the delicious produce grown here. One of our favorite summer vegetables, or fruits for that matter, all across the country is the tomato. Millions of us grow them.
The reason for a Tomato Fest is to create a celebration of the tomato harvest and to give my friends and people who are passionate about tomatoes an opportunity to taste more than 200 variety of heirloom tomatoes.
Gary Ibsen has been coordinating the Carmel Valley Tomato Festival for over 7 years, and it's all about showcasing the best tomato flavor in some creative ways.
An heirloom tomato is real special. It has a history to it. It's at least 3 generations old in order for it to be an heirloom tomato. It has usually a story behind it that is a real fascinating story. It comes with a people's story behind it. And most particularly, it has a lot of variety. There must be hundreds of varieties of heirloom tomatoes over the years. I think right now you could probably get a hold of maybe 200, 300. The range of flavor in heirloom tomatoes is immense. You get all the way from the really citrony, lemony, down to the real heavy, having a lot of substance and deep, rich character, to sparkly, real rich tomato flavors the way they used to be. I find as much variety in tomato flavors as there are in wines.
There's no question that our sense of taste is a very complex system. The flavor of the fresh foods we eat can be influenced by many things, and tomatoes are no exception. You see, the variety we choose and the soil they're grown in, as well as how they're fed, can all influence their taste.
I've been growing tomatoes organically for a number of years, and not only do I feel that it's my responsibility to treat the soil with integrity, but I feel that the tomatoes taste better. And I started here with a wild field that had nothing really in it, and I added a lot of compost and soft rock phosphate and azomite rock dust and earthworm castings, and I have a very healthy soil right now. One of the things I found that tomatoes have been most responsive to is foliar feeding, which I do several times during a season. And with a solution of fish emulsion and minerals and sea kelp, I found that the tomato is able to better resist pests and also resist some of the stress from winds.
If you've ever grown that most popular of summer fruits, the tomato, you know at some point along the way they need a little support. For me, I find these cages handy. They work well in my small raised beds. However, for growing a lot of tomato plants, there are other methods of support that are more efficient. Here at Earthbound Farms, farm manager Mark Marino, an organic grower of quality vegetables and hundreds of tomato plants, showed me how he gets the job done.
Well, Alan, I've been using this system for about 15 years, and it's really simple. You just plant the tomato plants in a line, as you can see, about 18 inches apart, and then when they get about 12 inches high, you put in the stakes about every 12 feet, and then starting at about 10 inches, every 10 inches or so, I take the twine down one side, come back the other side, and it leaves the double row of twine here that supports the plants from falling over. So you can see right now how the twine is sandwiching them, and when you wrap it around each pole, that cinches it really tight and it stays there, and you tie it off at the end. And it's really a beautiful, easy support system that's inexpensive and simple to create and easy to take apart at the end of the year. So we've used it here, like I said, for about 15 years, and it's never failed us yet. We get bumper crops. It lets a lot of light and air into the plants and the fruit too, and that's really what you want, that good air and light circulation for a healthy, beautiful quality fruit. Probably in about 10 days we'll put another layer of twine about right here, and we'll go all the way up, and it makes a beautiful wall of tomato plants, and it makes it real easy to harvest the fruit too, because they're just hanging right there.
Coming up, mum's the word in this small town. We'll visit the Mum Fest, where over 1 million blooms are attracting visitors from around the country. Plus, I'll share some tips on buying these colorful beauties. Stay with us. Nothing extends color into our fall gardens better than chrysanthemums. And the range of colors that we can find in them today is really quite amazing. Virtually every color except for blue can be found. There's burgundy and red, salmon and orange and pink, as well as white and yellow. Now there's also great diversity among the flower shapes and forms of mums. This is the classic daisy form. Now from this, the spoon-tip daisy was developed. Now if you're looking for something light and airy, you might want to try one of the spider mums. Then of course there's the classic pom-pom, and this relatively new flower form called the anemone. All of these beautiful mums are especially bred for the Flower Fields collection. As you can see, there's really no end to the choices. Now when you select mums at the nursery, there are a few things I want you to remember. First, you want to make sure that the plant is heavily budded. Don't buy too many in bloom because you want the plant to bloom as long as possible for you. The other thing to remember is the soil really should be completely moist. Never buy mums that are dehydrated. You see, if the plant ever completely wilts, these stems will shrivel and the buds will rarely open into flowers. With so many flowers packed into one plant, how can you resist the beauty? And if that's not enough beauty for you, try taking a trip to this place. The crisp fall air has brought thousands of visitors out to Barberton, Ohio's Mum Fest. It's an event that's been going on since the early 80s, and it's a beautiful way to bring this community together. I had an opportunity to speak with an organizer about the work that goes into creating this event. Lisa, what better way to kick off the fall season than with a Mum Festival?
Well, it's my favorite time of year, and I look forward to this every year because of this beautiful display that we do here at our lake.
It really brings the crowds out.
We have 30,000 people here sometimes on a nice weekend.
Now, how many mums would be planted here at Anna Park for the Mum Festival?
17,000, 18,000 mums, creating over 1 million mum blooms.
Oh, how wonderful. There's so much community spirit, you can really feel it.
We have everybody volunteering here, from city council members to scouts to senior citizens. Everybody's excited about this event.
Well, it's a wonderful source of inspiration for communities across the entire country.
Well, and I've also noticed that it has inspired people in their yards to beautify and plant more flowers, chrysanthemums, bulbs in the spring, annuals. So it's very contagious. It really spreads throughout the community.
I know exactly what she means about mums being contagious, especially when it comes to color. I'm always looking for ways to keep as much color in the garden as long as possible. I have plenty for mid and late season bloom, such as goldenrod and asters. But to ensure a splash of color deep into the autumn, I always plant a few of these classic mums. They just seem to be naturals for the fall landscape. They originally came from China and have been grown in gardens there for over 2,500 years. It's easy to see why they're so enduring with such a variety of shapes and colors. As you can see, these that I'm planting really don't look like much yet. But if you'll look a little closer, you'll see they're just covered in tiny little buds, just waiting to explode into flower. I prefer selecting them heavily budded like this because it gives them more of an opportunity to root into my flower beds. And they just seem to settle in better and look more natural in the landscape. After all, I'm not looking for flowers from these for another month or so. For the most visual impact, I like to group several plants, putting them close enough to one another that they form a dense mass. And I always think that they're more striking if you group a single color or color family. For all of these buds to mature into flowers, it'll be important that I don't allow the plants to become too dry. Without plenty of moisture, you see the flowers can be small and malformed. Now once they bloom, I'll cut them back and dig them up and move them to another part of my garden. And I'll still have time to fill this area with tulips for bloom next spring. Coming up next, I'll share a few of my mum favorites. Plus, I'll show you how I grow tomatoes in my garden, so don't go away. Today, we're celebrating the garden by visiting festivals around the country. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome back. Aren't these mums gorgeous? I tell you, I was so inspired by the Mum Fest, I had to come home and try to put some of these together in my own garden. I love combining mums with other plants, and that's exactly what I've done in this large glazed container. I've taken this variety called Debonair, it's a flower fields variety, and combined it with this wonderful coleus called kiwi fern. Now to accent the front of this container, I've used ornamental kale and this variegated ivy to spill or cascade over the edge. To bring up the color contrast, I've used a lavender aster. And for the tall, spiky element here, well, this is purple fountain grass. You see, this combination has used my three-step rule. Something tall and spiky in the center, something round and full in the middle, and something to cascade over the edge. Now, I also like echoing colors. Let me show you what I've done here. I've taken this kiwi fern, and I've repeated the color of the edge of that leaf with this debonair chrysanthemum. And I've also echoed what's in the large container here with this smaller container. These two together with a few pumpkins clustered at the base will make quite a statement in the garden. And speaking of a statement, some of these mums are really outstanding. You should take a look at them, like this one called Gretchen. It's a rich dark orange, a color sure to enrich any garden or container. You see, these are all part of the Prophet series from the flower fields. Now, something you may want to keep in mind when planting mums, if you want them to winter over, their chances of survival are much better planted in the garden rather than in containers. It may be helpful to know that a mature European Prophet mum will grow to about 18 to 24 inches tall and will spread about 24 inches. These make nice mounds of color in the garden. And as we saw at the Barberton Mum Festival, when planted in large drifts, the impact can be outstanding. You can expect your mum blooms to last at least 4 weeks in the fall, especially when cooler temperatures prevail. The blooms can actually tolerate a light frost. And remember, well-drained soil is important to ensure success. It's important to know that you can buy mums that bloom early, mid, and late in the season, so you can extend the color in your garden. All right, now let's switch gears for a moment. Remember that fantastic tomato festival? Well, I sure do. One of the best parts of attending an event like this is that I always come away with some heirloom seeds to try. In my garden, I grow tomatoes and other vegetables in raised beds. I find this method of gardening is an ideal way to save time and space. I started with a 6-foot square bed, and I used 2x10 lumber, attaching them with wood screws. Now, if you'd like the detailed information on how to build these, you can always check out my website. I think raised beds are ideal for anyone who has tough soil conditions to work in. My soil is heavy clay, so it was much easier in my vegetable garden to build up the soil rather than to amend the whole area. Another benefit to this approach to gardening is that in that the soil is raised, it warms earlier in the spring and stays warmer later in the season, so it extends my season for growing vegetables. Should the temperature drop suddenly, because I have such manageable raised beds, it's easy for me to cover them with frost blankets or cold frames. You know, I've discovered that gardening like this can be a great teaching tool. Children love the idea of having a self-contained space they can call their own. They can have great fun with this by planting seeds in the shape of their name or initials, and it's a wonderful way for them to learn self-reliance and responsibility. When we come back, I'll meet you in the kitchen and share one of my favorite party recipes, tomato and avocado salsa. For me, the best foods are those that come directly out of the garden, and they're always better when they're in season. For instance, these late season tomatoes are a natural for using with the avocado. Since most of us are not lucky enough to have an avocado tree in the garden, we can find plenty in the grocery because many growers are well into the harvest at this time of year. I'm preparing a great tasting salsa that's simple to make and it's delicious with grilled fish or poultry. You may even want to try it for your Labor Day cookout. It starts with tomatoes, of course, and I'm using 4 large homegrown tomatoes that I've seeded and diced. There's no need to peel them. I combine these with 1/4 cup of finely minced onion and 2 crushed cloves of garlic. Now to really bring this to life, I'll add 2 teaspoons of chopped jalapeno peppers, about 3 tablespoons of chopped fresh cilantro leaves, and the juice of 1 lime. Now for the avocados. It only takes 2 that have been pitted and diced. Then I'll add 1/4 cup of olive oil. Gently toss all of this together and just add salt and pepper to taste. Now you'll want to prepare this a few hours before you serve it. You see, if you make it too far in advance, the avocados can discolor just a bit, but it won't affect their flavor. This is a great end of the summer recipe that can be just the right touch to a picnic or a cookout.
Alan's garden is a showcase of color. One of his secrets is flowers from the flower fields. Brilliant colors, distinctive varieties, with color-matching ideas on every plant. The flower fields' healthy, abundant bloomers have made them Alan's first choice for garden color. Want to transform your garden into a showcase of color? Look for the tag that says The Flower Fields. The Flower Fields, where color grows.
Well, that's it for today's show. I've certainly enjoyed spending time with you. Aren't those garden festivals wonderful? What a terrific way to celebrate the bounty of nature and the garden. Now remember, everything you've seen in today's show can be found on my website. It's PAlanSmith.com. That includes sources for those heirloom tomato seeds and that wonderful recipe for tomato avocado salsa. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.